Hey, greetings, Earthlings! Welcome back to 7th Street. The line between trash exploitation and art house cinema is very, very thin. And in my opinion, very few movies exist right on that line, forever teetering between high art and low art. Abel Ferrara has directed 2 of those movies.
The subject of today's review may very well be the most misjudged movie of all time, and this can almost entirely be attributed to its brilliant title and poster artwork.
This isn't right, this is nothing, this is shit!
The Driller Killer is generally best known for almost single-handedly igniting the video nasties craze back in the early 80s in the UK. The funny thing is, it probably could have easily escaped the video nasties list if the original video cover art wasn't so graphic. It featured a very bloody close-up of a drill boring into a man's head with lots and lots of blood. The poster art was featured in many video catalogs and received a lot of complaints from right-wing fuckheads like Mary Woodhouse. The movie was ostracized for this reason and very little else.
Which is bullshit. If anyone had actually cared to watch this movie, they'd see that this is actually a pretty fascinating low-budget psychodrama.
The first thing about The Driller Killer that you need to know is, it's really not much of a sleazy exploitation film. At least not in the same way as the other movies on the DPP list. It's really trying to be more of an art house, cinema verite, black comedy type thing. It doesn't really accomplish the goal in the way that I think the director intended, but it was his first time out, so I tend to give him a pass.
Really? What do you know about paint? Tell you what you know about paint, man. You don't know nothing about paint, man. You know what you know about? You know about how to bitch, and how to eat, and how to bitch, and how to shit, and how to bitch, but you don't know nothing about paint. So don't tell me when this is gonna be done. I'll tell you when it's gonna be done.
The movie opens with this title card that reads, "This movie should be played loud." This is something that one would usually see on the back of LPs back in the day. I believe that there are some David Bowie albums and some other punk rock bands that would plaster this command on the back of their records. This really sets it up from the get-go that this movie is different. It's rebellious.
Sneak up here, man. I'll whisper right in your ear, man. I'll say it's fun!
In the slums of New York City, an aspiring painter by the name of Reno Miller, played by the writer and director, Abel Ferrara, shares a loft with his girlfriend Carol and their lesbian roommate Pamela. Like all amateur artists, Reno is having some difficulties paying the bills while he obsesses over finishing the painting that is going to be his masterpiece, a buffalo with a hypnotic eye. It's been said that this painting is supposed to be a commentary on the energy crisis at the time. I don't really know how, but that's what they say.
Where's the impact? It's just a goddamn buffalo!
When a local punk rock band, the Roosters, moves into the apartment building, playing day and night, Reno becomes somewhat of an insomniac, and he slowly plunges into insanity, lashing out at his girlfriend and neglecting his work.
What are you trying to do to me?
What are you talking about?
Do to me. What are you trying to do to me?
What's the matter with
What are you doing? You're driving me crazy, man.
Why are you looking
You
at
gotta
me like
get out
that?
of here, man. You're driving me nuts. Why are you doing this to me? Why? Why are you doing this to me, man? Why are you making me like this? Why? Why?
Soon the pressures of life and his inability to complete his masterpiece become too much to handle, and Reno then proceeds to stalk the streets with an electric drill, killing homeless winos. This is really just a very small part of the movie. It's really just the last stages of Reno's descent into madness, but I've still found that people are often disappointed that this movie isn't just a wall-to-wall gore fest. A Above all else, this movie does a really good job of getting inside the mind of its protagonist. This is an amazingly anxious film, what with its bleak settings, ear-shattering soundtrack, and an abundance of what I imagine are stolen shots of actual homeless people living on the streets of New York. The Driller Killer is very much a punk film. Very loud, very aggressive, and it boasts this irreverent attitude.
This creepy old guy comes up to me and says, "Sweetie, you don't have to kiss to make babies." So I waited until it was about time to leave, and I walked up to him and I said, "No, but you gotta fuck."
Abel Ferrara does a great job of capturing the raw emotion of an artist at his wit's end. Reno wants a better life, and he truly believes in what he's doing, but he just seems to be kept down by the weight of his own anger and anxiety.
You talk to LA for 2 hours and 10 minutes, man? What are you, going out of your mind? What are you, crazy? Holy Christ, Philadelphia?
My sister?
Miami?
That's mine.
Trenton, New Jersey? Queens, man? Wait, Queens is a local court.
Driller Killer was shot in 16mm with mostly natural lighting from what I can tell. The grungy lighting and the dingy settings in this movie lend to its realism, probably because it is real. This really was the best Abel Ferrara could do for his first time out as a filmmaker. This is very much a situation where the filmmaker is just doing the best that he can with what he's got, kind of like the main character Reno. We all know that Abel Ferrara has gone on to have a pretty successful career, mostly in the 90s with films like Bad Lieutenant and King of New York. Driller Killer is an interesting look at the start of a major directing talent. It's not the best movie in the world. I mean, it's not even one of the better movies on the Video Nasties list in my opinion, but this is a movie that does speak to me in an odd way. As an amateur artist, I can identify with it. Maybe that's why I felt compelled to highlight it this time around. Anytime I find myself overwhelmed by my ever-growing workload, I like to watch The Driller Killer, just to remind myself that however hard it is now, at least it hasn't gotten to this stage yet.
If you consider yourself to be a Nasties completist or, shit, just an Abel Ferrara fan, and you haven't seen The Driller Killer, you really need to jump on it and reference this film.
Ask her, maybe she wants a bite.